Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kisma. I'm Kisma, and today's episode is 3 Ways to Overcome Obstacles. Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kisma, bringing you ancient wisdom for modern day success so that you can have the mindset to get your life and business set.
As always, thank you for tuning in. And if you're new to the podcast, take a quick second to hit the subscribe button in iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. If you want to get the inside info for this and every episode, as well as some free gifts, go to illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. And now let's dive in to get your mindset for your life and business set.
Hello there, Nick. What's going on?
Well, Kisma.
Well, that was an exciting and
It
exuberant
is.
hello.
I smell barbecue.
Oh, we're at
actually.
the office on a Saturday. You know,
They're throwing a party.
We kind of work on weekends, everyone. I sort of work all the time because I love what I do. And we have this cool office at Common Grounds in Carlsbad. And there's a graduation party going on. And there's some meat on the barbecue, and we're vegetarians. But, you know, God bless the graduates.
It's not the meat for me.
Is it the barbecue?
It's the barbecue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brings back memories.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, me too.
Part of, it smells like a
4th of July.
like a family
kinda,
family cookout.
For me, it would be like the memory of our house in Ohio and the front yard and relatives coming over. And maybe it was like my dad would actually be grilling,
Mm-hmm.
or there could be a birthday cake or watermelon. It was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My dad loved to grill. He had this really nice
Mhm.
gas grill out back,
Mhm.
and they're like the same one for years and years. He cooked all this. It was,
Yeah.
It's like that smell. Like smell is so powerful.
Smell is a powerful sense.
It only takes a second and just takes you back. And it's
Right.
such a rich memory of
Mhm.
something.
Totally. I get that when I travel. Sometimes like if I go back into Shanghai, I'm like, oh yeah, it smells like Shanghai.
Yeah.
Or,
Right. Or
you know,
India.
India.
Like
Oh yeah.
the
It smells
ashram.
like
It does. But the ashram has
a beautiful smell.
It
to
does.
It.
There's
It's
something
clean.
about it. Yeah. And-
Yeah. So really cool stuff. Well, today's episode is very effective and relevant for, I know, both of us as coaches and healers, and the people that come to us to go to another level, whether it's in the physical, mental, emotional place or business. Usually they come in because there will be something that we would call an obstacle. And obstacle does not have to be a bad thing.
It often becomes that.
It becomes that in the mind, right? So just as
problem.
Yeah. Just as we look at what we do with our own mindset, our own thought flow, our focus, what happens when we're constantly focused on the thing, whatever perceived problem, obstacle there is, it begins to grow in the negative when someone is only focusing on this obstacle rather than focusing on, if there is an obstacle, there's actually a solution.
Yeah. Well, I love that you said right off the bat, it's got this negative connotation to it, right? It's like a bad thing, like obstacle equals bad. And hopefully we'll change your mind on that a little bit today, or help you look at it from a little bit different perspective, because I'm with you. I've never found that particularly productive. I've definitely watched my mind go there many times.
For sure.
It's like,
and it gets bigger and it gets hairier and it becomes a thing.
Yeah,
and next
it
thing
grows
you know,
and grows.
It's like, yeah.
And it's like that.
It's a story.
For me, it's a self-perpetuating thought cycle. This is something I've really worked to change for myself. And it took some time, to really shift like that feeling that when things are going well, it's like something's going to go bad. It's like waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah.
That kind of feeling is like, and then sure enough, that obstacle shows up and it's like, there it is.
Guess
bad,
what? You've been thinking about it, waiting for it.
Right. But it's such a common story though. And I've heard that from so many of my clients too, of like, if it's like things start to go well and they're like, whoa, like, I don't know what to do with this, and then boom, something shifts.
Yeah. And just a little hint, if you like our new logo, everyone, if you're not looking at it, go look at it, because in the logo is the remover of all obstacles. So we're big fans of Ganesh, who is one of the iterations of the Hindu gods. We're not Hindi, but we love Ganesh because the Vedanta Academy uses it, and Ganesh is known to be the remover of all obstacles. I bring that up because within us is the remover of obstacles.
That's right.
And so you suggested we dial this into 3 steps, and I think this is really great. So step number one, when an obstacle comes up, when say, let's give a for instance, because, I know many people are like, oh, we want to come to one of your trainings or we want to do one of your courses. And then something shows up and they're like, oh, I can't do it because.
Yeah.
And I even had someone who signed up for my Prosperity Code Live. And when I was chatting with her on Facebook, she sent me a list of excuses why she couldn't come. And I just said, those are really interesting excuses. Like, do you want to change that or not? She was like, oh. And she just simply had to be aware that she was creating or focusing on all of these little mini obstacles rather than the solution, which was to get her butt to the training.
Yeah, it's not hard to find reasons to not do something or to back down. I just had this really interesting thing happen with me. It really highlighted this so a lady had reached out on my website about she's had some pretty significant depression, and had described this in a form that she filled out and everything. And she scheduled a time to talk with me, which is it's one of my favorite things to do is to talk to people and just to see like, okay, well, what's really going on with you? Is this actually a fit? Can I help you in some way? And what would that look like? To just really bring them through a process. And at the end of the day, they always walk away with some form of clarity that's really powerful for them. Okay. So she canceled at the last minute. She just made a mistake in her schedule and whatever. And I called her and she answered the phone. And so we were rescheduling the time. We were right there to reschedule the time. And my call dropped. And I'm pretty sure it happened on my end. But regardless, the call dropped. And I was just getting ready to call her back. I had to pull her number back up and she sent me a text message. You know what? Forget the whole thing. I don't talk with people that hang up on me.
Aww.
And I was like, no, but and I texted her back. I said, that's not what happened. The call dropped, and that was it. That was the last I heard from her. And it made me sad, right? Because she was right at that moment where she reached out for a really good reason.
Yes.
She found the right place. I'm really good at helping people with those sorts of things. And we were only just one step away from finding a bridge over that.
Yeah.
And she opted out.
And made something as simple as a call that drops, which happens all the time in the world of mobile cell phone, as an obstacle.
Yeah.
And so that is such a great story because all of our listeners, you can start to look at, okay, where have you created a bigger obstacle? We'll get into the mirroring thing in a minute, but where have you created a bigger obstacle than what it actually is? And so step number one is really to inquire.
Ask the question.
Is it an obstacle?
Yeah.
Am I perceiving it to be a bigger obstacle than it is? Am I growing this sucker all by myself and making it like a monstrosity?
Right.
I mean, that's where I go.
And yeah, right. Am I making this monster? But it shows, I can't remember it's one of the agreements, right? Don't make assumptions.
Don't make assumptions.
And that is one of the things that I see happen, that people assume, number one, that the obstacle is bad and it's trying to prevent them from something. Number two is that it's there, right? That it's like that's a real thing. We make assumptions about the reason that whatever that thing is that happened.
Right.
And that often sounds like it wasn't meant to be.
Oh, that one just tears me apart.
It's a sign.
It's a sign I'm not supposed to do it.
Yeah. And so it's, it's just
not the right time.
Yeah. It's really misreading all these signs.
Misreading. And what happens, because I know a lot of people do this, it's a sign, it's not the right time. Meant to be, actually what's meant to be. And I would love for everyone listening to write this down. What's meant to be is what's in line with your soul, with your purpose, with your life. And oftentimes you take that step, like the woman who went to check in with Nick, have a call. You'll take the step. Something's going to come up because it's a representation of that fear of actually growing, exploring, creating something better, making a breakthrough.
Yeah. Without getting too deeply into this part of it, there is the conscious part of ourselves that says, yes, I want change. I want something to be different. And as we all know, the conscious mind is not the majority of your mind. The majority of your mind is actually lying in the subconscious and all the deeper beliefs and imprints and patterns and attitudes that have been programmed there. And so when your conscious mind makes a decision like that, like you said before, Kisma, there is an inherent fear of the unknown. If you're going to do something you've never done before, take a step that you've never taken, you're stepping into unknown territory to have something that you've probably never had before. Part of you is probably going to have something to say about that.
Right.
And it's the part that's hidden. Right.
Right. It's the scared part. It's the old paradigm, the old belief part.
And it's kind of like a puppet master. You don't see the hands that are pulling the strings, that are creating these circumstances in your life that are, can appear as obstacles or appear as problems, or however you say it. But that's the thing. So that's why that question is so important. A lot of times people make it about money is one of the big obstacles that people run into. I don't, it's not in the budget. Well, a really great question two great questions to ask yourself for that. If it's something that you really want, that is for your highest and best, whatever that thing is, first thing to ask is like, okay, you say it's not in your budget. Well, what if it were in your budget?
What if it were?
And that might seem like an absurd question, but it invites you into a creative space about I wonder where that money might be.
Right. Because as you've heard in our prosperity series, money comes from source where everything else there is an infinite amount of supply. We have to be open to it. And we often have to take action to go receive it.
Absolutely.
But it's there.
Absolutely. And an even simpler way is like, if you focus on what you don't have in your lack, you will have more lack.
Exactly. So inquire, is it really an obstacle, guys? Or is it that like ego? Is it that part of you where it's like, what will happen is growth, expansion, taking a step, doing something new will feel uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
Get used to it.
Yeah.
Get used to being uncomfortable. Really, because there will be, I promise everyone, once you get used to being uncomfortable, you become more comfortable with that, but you also understand there's an essence, there's the universe, there's your guides or whoever you pray to or meditate to that comes right underneath you and lifts you up and helps you across.
Yeah.
There really is. And when you trust in that and when you call it in, the uncomfortable piece is like, okay, this is actually a breakthrough that is worth having.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's
inquire,
like ask the questions.
So tell me about step number 2.
Step number 2 has to do with mirroring, right? If you've ever heard this, in the personal growth realm, it's like the things that show up in your world, especially like people or circumstances or things like that, like they're mirroring something back that is particularly with people, it's mirroring something back that's going on inside of you. And that can be super frustrating. And this is something I've been thinking about, recently, and kind of wondering, like, is that an all the time thing? Like, seriously. And I don't mean that as like to try and like let myself off the hook. It's more asking the question from the space of like, is that a rabbit hole that I need to be going down, or can I just dismiss it? Because at the end of the day, the most important thing to me in my life is my own personal development. And I don't want to miss the gems. Right. And I think this is something that we all experience on a daily basis. Somebody does something or something weird shows up in our world and we're like, okay. And so when you look at it from that perspective, it's like, well, what is this showing me? That's step 2. Is like, that's the question that you ask yourself is, well, what is this showing me? Right. What is the opportunity here? Most people don't, I don't say most people, but a lot of people don't think in terms of opportunity, but you can just ask, what is it showing me?
Absolutely. It is an opportunity. And you could also ask, why am I attracting that? Especially like, I think it's a good question. Is it always that what is right in front of us is a mirror of what's in us? I mean, we've got the law of karma, cause and effect. We've got, there's so much, and rabbit holes aren't always great to go down into. I think it's a relevant question right now. It's like, for instance, if you're having, maybe people get angry at you more often than not, you can pause and be like, okay, what's that anger in me that I'm really not looking at?
Right.
Right. There's an essence. There could be a seed of something you haven't resolved. So it's like when things show up in patterns, and more often than not, we've really got to look at what's going on inside of me. That's creating, because we know the internal creates the external. That's why here at Illumination Podcast, we're always like, the internal work is the most important. Yes, we've got to take action. Yes, we've got to be in the world. Yet if we're not aligned, if we're not clear internally, we're going to create a chaotic external world.
Right.
the harmonization alignment within will create the harmonization and alignment without to the best of what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
Because the world, and back to perception, right? The world is always happening.
Yeah. Yeah. From my own personal experience, just in a really practical way, it's not always a one-to-one thing. Like if somebody's getting angry with me, it's not that I'm just walking around super angry. But it's that question of like, whoa, is there something like that? That's a really good question to ask. Is that something that's going on inside of me?
Right.
So with that lady, like the first thing I asked myself is like, wow, where am I? Is there a place in my life where I'm opting out, just saying, screw it, when something doesn't go my way or something unexpected happens?
Did you find an answer?
I looked at some things from a different perspective. Like I said, it wasn't like a one-to-one kind of thing, but there are shades of it.
Yeah,
I was like, yeah, kind of.
I'm really glad you said that, because the mirroring, like in the personal growth, can be very direct, but look at it more, if we go back to the anger thing. Okay, where have you been throwing anger? Maybe it was a year ago, right? But karma catches up. And it really does. It can come back to us in different ways. So always be receptive to the teaching.
Right.
Always be receptive to the teaching, because that's the fastest way to clear the karma, to walk the karma, to resolve what's going on. It's like, whoa, okay, what is going on in me? Am I willing to look at it? Yes. Oh, what do I need to do? I mean, we've got a ton of processes we use for people. You can always reach out. But they're gifts.
Yeah.
It becomes a real gift.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And the other aspect of this, there's another part of this that I think is important too, is like, I have noticed sometimes if people are like, they're getting upset with me or kind of shutting down or something like that, like I realize about myself, like I pitch in my mind, I just picture myself as this like really like laid back person. And apparently that's not the case, No. I know it's like, how many times do I need to hear this? But it's true. Like I can be pretty direct and I can also be pretty intense to me, it seems relaxed, but I guess not. But that can make people really uncomfortable. And if I'm not mindful of that, I'm actually like, I'm not helping them.
Yeah.
And then they're just getting uncomfortable. Like they're reacting to an energy that I'm putting off, which is not ill-intended, right?
No.
That's where they can make an assumption and say like, oh, this guy's just, like he's being too a jerk or rude or whatever. And I'm not intending it that way at all. But my end of the street in that, and this is the most important part of the whole thing, is like my part of that is like, dude, put your hand on your heart and slow down a little bit, because you're not communicating. Your message isn't getting through here.
Slow down, different tone, sugarcoat it, Nikki.
You've said it so many times to me with
guys,
the tone.
Can I just insert?
Oh God.
I cannot even tell you the number of times I have said tone is everything.
And I'm like, what's the matter with my tone?
Oh, it seems like it's coming back around. Isn't that cool? He's so receptive. All right. That's awesome. What's number 3? We've got inquire. We've got the mirroring externally, internally. Why is it showing up? What's all that? What's the third step?
The third one's a little unexpected. Find your yes.
I love yes. Tell me about that.
You landed where you are and you're here for a reason, right? People are looking for something. Right. They're looking for something like you're not listening to this podcast. Like maybe you're just listening to it because you like to listen to us make fun of one another and talk about weird stuff, but the truth of the matter is you don't listen to a Illumination podcast unless you're looking for something. There's a yes that got you here. Now, if we start to go off the rails and say weird stuff and stuff that really offends you, your first thing might be to be able to screw it, flip it off, right?
Yeah.
That's the majority of people will just flip it off.
Yeah.
They'll do that before they ask the question of like, well, wait a second, like what was I looking for in the first place?
What was I seeking?
What was that first yes that got me here? And because you can't have a desire for something and not have the next step to that in front of you.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
There. It's there.
And so,
but are you seeing it and are you taking it?
That's right. In every moment, there is always something here for you that will take you to your next step.
Right.
And it's weird because we miss it most of the times. Like I just think as a busy human being in the world, we're in our work, we're in our different things. And it's like, we're not really always open and receptive to whatever that thing is. And then it doesn't show up in a certain way or it sounds different or something like that. And then we go into the no, like, no, that's not it. No, it must not be meant to be. The universe doesn't want that for me or whatever that thing is. So finding your yes is about just, getting back to that reason, like hold on a second. Why am I here in the first place? Right? It's really easy to get off into these tangents.
Why am I here in the first place? What is that dream that I actually want to lean into the expectation? Because if there's something we desire and we're not expecting it, we're just wishing. But we're humans, we're attracting in, it's like, it's going back to that magnetic attraction. And so already an obstacle shows up. It doesn't mean the magnet broke. It doesn't mean the dream's over. It means you get to build a little bit more of resiliency, create and understand and have some more wisdom, because there's going to be a navigation period through or above or below the obstacle, and become even more confident and certain in that desired dream because you made it through.
Yeah.
And this is why those obstacles, I was saying to some of my students in the Karma Money Cleanse the other week, I was like, failure, because people are like, oh, I'm afraid of failure. Failure is a mechanism to talk to the universe. Because if something doesn't work out, you get to go back and be like, okay, where did I miss? Where did I stop? Where did I kind of, just not receive, or what? It's an opportunity to go and have a conversation with the creator. When you're going to get the answers if you have the conversation.
Yeah. They might not be
what you want
or expect,
but you will get the answers. And so we think this failure thing's about, no. It's really an opportunity to go back and reflect and look again and be like, okay. And like, I love that. Get back to your yes, like get back to your dream, get back to your vision, have the absolute #it's possible energy and belief that if this is something that you desire and you hold steady to it, it's going to come in. Will it look exactly like you think? Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah.
But getting back to your yes is really powerful.
Yeah. What the heck am I doing here?
Yeah. I love it.
To begin with. Yeah. So important. So we have an illuminated thought for the day.
Just to reiterate. So inquire.
Yeah. Ask, is it so?
Is this so? Like, is it really the obstacle where you're like, oh, it's not meant to be? Likely 90%, 99% not. What's it telling me about me?
Yeah.
About self? What's showing up? What's that weed I got to pluck? And get back to your yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Our illuminated thought for today's episode is, this is an anonymous quote, guys. Obstacles do not block the path. They are the path. Oh, that one gives me the chills.
It does. There's something with this, so I want to offer a word of caution, because it's going to bring together two parts of this that I think is important. Is oftentimes, if you take advice like that, like just really in a very simple way, you look for resistance.
Oh, yeah, no.
Right? It's not about that, right? It's not about not being able to have things move easier for you and flow with more ease. It's understanding that this is the truth of the whole thing, is that you're here because you're looking for something to expand and grow in your life. There are things inside of you that will need to be released in order to do that. Those are the obstacles. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be hard.
Right.
It doesn't have to be like this constant labor,
it's really a release, a solving.
It's an opportunity to release and solve.
Obstacles do not block the path. They are the path. And they are the path to strength, to resiliency, to wisdom, to enlightenment, to being an amazing human.
That's right. If you're a growth-minded person, you will always have those things, because those are the things that need to be released.
Right.
In order to walk lighter, in order to be more free in your life, those are the things that have to go.
Love it.
Yeah. So it's all perfectly and beautifully designed.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
I love that.
Yeah. Great episode. Thanks for joining in, everyone. And hey, share this with a friend, a colleague. Slip a little note to your boss if you think like they gotta listen. But we do appreciate you and love you dearly for listening to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kisma.
Peace.
Namaste. Hey, thanks for jamming with us today. And if you enjoy Illumination Podcast, please go ahead and share it with someone you love. Give us a rating, review, download our podcast. And remember, you can find us at illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. Talk to you soon. Namaste.